So one last thing to talk about with regression is what is called a prediction interval for y. What a prediction interval is telling you for a certain x value, what is the a certain percent of the y values will be between some numbers. So this is what a prediction interval is. We're going to add and subtract some error amount. We're going to actually use R for doing this, but you're going to take your predicted value from your regression line, and you're going to add and subtract some error amount from that. Again, R will do it for us. So the prediction interval, it's going to have a certain percent with it. You are going to create a linear model out, which we've already done several times. And then you do predict is linear model out, new data. And actually, I noticed there's a mistake right here, so I'm going to go fix this really, really fast. And what this should say is new data equals list. And then inside the parentheses is where you would put your independent variable value. And whatever that X value is, you're going to work with. And then you're going to put a comma and then go on from interval equals prediction and then level in C. And you're going to put whatever that C value is in percent as a decimal. So in order to show you how this works, let's actually take an example. So let's say I want to find a 95% prediction interval for the percent of people who know someone has symptoms in a state where the percent of people wearing a mask most of the time or all the time in public is 92%. So what I want to find is I want to find out that Y value, and I'm trying to get the Y value between two numbers. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find out that response variable and get it between two numbers and have 95% of all the values are going to be between here. And so again, we're going to use R for this. I do want to do it for when X is equal to 92%. I do want to point out that our data, if I go back and look at RStudio for just a moment, my data is in, these are percentages, but they're given as percents, not as decimals. So we don't need to worry about making this into a decimal. We're going to leave it as a percent. All right, so we're going to go and figure out how to go do this. We are going to use RStudio for this. And we already created our linear model out. I know that because it's right over here in my list. I've also been using this many times. If you didn't already create it, then you would go create your linear model out first. Once you've done that, you then will do prediction. And I believe it's predict. Let me go back and look really fast. This is one of the ones that I don't use all that often, so I got to make sure I get it correctly. And it is just predict. Okay, but it is prediction there. All right. So it's predict. And we're going to use that LM out. So we're using that LM out that we've already been using. Notice it came up in that list. And then new data equals list. And then don't just say variable, say what the variable is. Our variable in this case is percent mask. And we want that percent mask to equal 92%, was it? Let me go check. We want that to be 92%. Okay. And then we get outside that parenthesis and put a comma and then say interval equals prediction in quotes. And then you want your level to be 95%. And again, put that as a decimal, not as a 95. And then you hit enter. So I'm going to bring this back over and I'm going to show you what all this means. So again, this is the command we use. We use prediction, linear modeled out. So you do need to have created that linear model already. New data equals list. This is just listing what there are. You can actually do more than one if you needed to, but I usually don't because it just gets too confusing sometimes. And then interval equals prediction and level equals 0.95. And what it gave me is it gave me some information. first off, this is the value you get from your regression equation. So that's your y hat when x equals 92. So if I took my y equation and plugged that number in, that's the number I would get. If I plug 92 in, I would get that for my y value. Then it's got lower here and it's got upper here. That lower is your lower value, what goes at the bottom here, and the upper is the upper value. So we can actually now say that 5.3%, because remember these are percentages, because y is a percent, is whatever y's units are. So in this case, y's units are percentages. If this was height, then this would be inches. If this was weight, then this would be pounds. So it's whatever units those are to 24.6%. So it's saying here that in states where 92% of the people are wearing masks most or all the time, the 95% of the people will know between 5.3% and 24.6% people with the symptoms. So that's what that prediction interval does for you, is give you that idea. So if this was height and weight, then if this was your height was, let's say, 5'6", and these were weight values, then you would say 95% of the people whose height is 5'6" weigh between these two numbers. And so that's what that prediction interval does for us. And that's the end of regression. There's lots more you can do with regression, but that's the end of what we're going to do.